We'll start just by creating a black square. We'll call this a traffic light, or give it a class of traffic light. And we'll style it up using some styles. And we'll say traffic light has a width of 100, a height of 100, and a background color of black, really fancy. So now we'll see a nice black square over here. And to make this animate, this needs to have what's called a trigger. And we're going to call this trigger signal. You can name it whatever you want. As long as it has the @ sign in front of it, that makes it a trigger. And as always, the square brackets around an attribute make it an expression that'll evaluate on the right-hand side. So I'm just going to make this a string of go. So you can read this as a trigger of signal is setting to a state of go. So you define those in here in animations, where you define a trigger, and always make sure to import these. So you'll see I automatically imported it there. A trigger of signal with an array of states. Make sure to import state, and the state we're defining is go. And then states have styles, and make sure to import style. And styles are just basic CSS objects, so background color green. So we have this trigger called signal. On a state of go, it's telling it to set the background color to green. And because our signal here is set to go, the state of go, when I hit save, we should see the background color turn green. Now we can add a second state. So I'll just take this line and duplicate it. And I'll call this state stop and make the background color red. So to get from go to stop, I can come in here and change this to stop. Hit save, and you'll see this change to red. But now instead of hard coding stop, let's cut it out and make a property called signal here. And we'll assign that. And now we can assign the trigger of signal to this property of signal, so that whenever this signal changes, you'll see that we're still red because it's just reading in the string of stop. Whenever the signal changes, the state will change. So we'll put a button on there. This will be our go button. On go click. And in our on go click method here, we'll say this dot signal is go. So now we start at stop, but when I click the go button, it changes green because it's switching from the stop state to the go state. And the background color in the go state is green. So now we can make a second button here. We'll call this on stop click, call this stop, create a method called on stop click, and this dot signal is equal to stop. So now we'll have a go stop button. And what we can do between these two states is we can define what's called a transition between the states. And the way we define this transition is with a string that represents the from, and it moves to the to. So we're saying from any state and moving to any state, we want to animate for 500 milliseconds. So I'll hit save, and you'll see we go from go to stop, and it's smoothly animating between red and green. And I can even add in more properties here, like height, 100 pixels, height, 50 pixels. And now when it starts, you'll see it goes from nothing to stop, and then go, and stop, and go, and smoothly animating between those states and properties. Now it's important to notice when I first refresh, you'll see it kind of ease into the stop state, that it starts from the black square and goes to the stop state over this animation time. And that's because we're transitioning from any state to any state, and there's actually a transition from the void or empty state to other states. So let's duplicate that, and we can say from void, and we'll make this animation longer just so you can see it. And now this will take 5 seconds. So it's going from that black square up to the stop state. And so I'm just going to define this as 0 so that it just basically starts at whatever state it's going to and there's no animation there. Or you can also define a void state. So I'll copy the style. And I'll just say our void state is blue, and we can go, we'll make this really long again. So now you'll see it'll start at blue, and then go to that stop red. So however you want to handle it, going from not having a state to having a state, because at this point we are setting the state of signal to stop because it's defined. If we leave this undefined to start with, you'll see that it just starts at that void state, and then it transitioned back to black. That may have been hard to see, but it went to the default styles. So if I remove this and I remove this, and now I hit save, this will just stay black until I go to go or stop or go or stop. So be aware that there is this state where signal is not defined and it's void and it's going from some state to another state the first time that you set this. So if you have transitions covering all states, it's going to hit that void state. You can also use the void state in combination with adding and removing elements with ngif. So let's add a button with a click on toggle click. Let's call this toggle. And this is going to flip this value, let's say is here. So on toggle click, this dot is here is equal to the flip of this is here. And we'll start with is here set to false. And in my div, I'll say ngif is here. So when I hit save, the black box is gone. I'll click toggle, it'll appear. I'll click toggle, it'll go away. Toggle, it'll appear. Toggle, it'll go away. And you'll notice the delay when it was leaving was because it was animating out to that void state. So let's go ahead and set the void state again. I'm just going to copy and paste this style, but this time I'm going to set the transform of the void state to translate y negative 100%. So this is going to move that element up negative 100%, so that when I click toggle, it'll slide down, and toggle, it'll slide back up. So it's taking 100% of the height of this and moving it up, and that's where the void state is. So the void state is up above the browser. When I click toggle, it slides it down, and toggle, it slides it back up. So it's going to and from this. I don't have to define the positioning here or here, because this transform is just in relation to the default position, and these are already at the default position. So you can just go ahead and toggle this. We'll go to stop, go to go, toggle it again, stop, nothing happens, toggle, go, stop, toggle. By changing this number into a string, we'll start with 0.5 seconds. We can add other things to it like delay. So I'll say delay 1 second. So now when I save and run any of these animations, I'll hit toggle, delay 1 second, stop, delay 1 second, go, delay 1 second. So each of these will have this minor delay between the actual animation time, which is still 0.5 seconds. Then after that, you can also add in easing. So I'll say ease out. Now I'll hit save. I'll hit toggle. You'll see a delay, and then it kind of slows down on the way to the end of the animation. We'll make this a bit longer so that's more obvious. So I'll make the animation 2 seconds, the delay 1 second, and it's easing out. Toggle, then it slows down as it gets to the end. Slows down as it gets to the end, and go, it slows down and gets to the end. For really advanced easing, if you go to the Web Animations API on the W3C site and you scroll down to 3.11.3 to look at the scaling using a cubic Bezier curve, you can see we can also pass in, so we'll have ease, linear, ease in, ease out, ease in, out. You can also pass in a function that defines this curve that the animation is going to work on. So if I were to copy and paste the ease out curve, so cubic Bezier 0, 0, 0.58, and 1, and paste that here inside of the string, this will perform the same behavior because this curve from x0, y0, and 0.58 and 1 represents that ease out behavior. So you'll see the same behavior there. So then if you go to easings.net and you pick one of these functions, we'll try ease in out quad, and you grab the cubic Bezier defined here. So we'll copy this and paste this here. You'll see this ease in out quad behavior. So when I hit toggle, kind of eases in, then eases out, kind of eases in, This is again after that 1 second delay. It eases out, delay, then ease in and ease out. So this easings.net site will pretty much have you covered for any of the easings you can achieve through cubic Bezier. So even one like ease out back, this one will overshoot because you see 1.2 goes greater than 1. So when I paste this in here, you'll see this animation will go a bit too far and then come back. So we'll toggle, delay, come a bit too far and then come back, stop, bit too far and then come back. So you get a lot of power with these, and you can just come in and copy paste those cubic Beziers or just save them as strings somewhere you can concatenate in. Some of these, the more advanced ones you'll see at the bottom here, like ease, in, out, bounce, have too many steps in it to allow a CSS representation of it. So you're going to have to represent that in Angular 2 using something like keyframes. Now for more fine-tuned control of transitions, let's do a transition from void to anything. So when we click that initial toggle button, we'll want an animation. So we'll animate for 5 seconds. And then instead of using that string-based syntax we used below, I'm just going to say comma and keyframes. Now you invoke keyframes, then you pass in an array of styles, and these styles are going to be steps throughout this 5 seconds. So these styles are just like these styles where you invoke it and pass in an object. So I'll say style, pass in an object of transform, and we'll scale this to 0, and then duplicate this a few times. So we're going to have 6 steps here, and you can think of this as like this 5 seconds being a 0 to 5 based index, where the first step is 0 seconds, the second step is 1 second, third step is 2 seconds. So this first step at 0 seconds will be scaled to 0, the second step will be scaled to 10%, the third step will be scaled to 50%, then we'll scale to 9, and then 95%, and then all the way to 100%. So it's going to go nice and slow at the beginning, then quickly from 0.1 to 5, because that's a big jump, and then quickly from 5 to 0.9, and then slowly from 9 to 9, then slowly from 9 to 95, and slowly from 95 to 1. So you'll see this animation when I click toggle. So you saw that initial speed from here to here, and then it slowed down in the middle, and then it went fast again. So you can tweak these values as you want. So we'll make the initial speed really fast, and then we can quickly scale it back down, and then scale it back up, then back down a little bit more, and then back to 100%. So this one will look kind of fun, and we'll hit toggle, out and in, and back out, and in, and all the way to 100%. And these styles will work on colors and any other CSS properties, widths and heights. So you can go to town building crazy animations like this. Now lastly, with these transitions, right now this goes from void to anything. And if I click toggle again, it's just going to disappear because it's using this transition from anything to anything. It's not going from anything back to void. You can actually use this syntax where the arrows kind of point both ways. And this way it defines from void to anything and from anything to void. So now when I hit save and I click toggle and this comes in, after 5 seconds, I can then hit toggle again and it'll do that same animation. It's not playing it in reverse, it's just doing that same animation and then disappearing. So you can define these from go to stop and from stop to go, just like that. So let's also move this one much shorter. And then I'll click toggle to bring it in really fast, and then to stop, and then go, and then to stop, and then to go, and then hit toggle again, and it's gone. So make sure you fully understand in these transition definitions what the starting state is, what the ending state is, and if you want it to go from the ending to the starting, to use that two-way from state to state, to state from state. And you can see right now, if you read these, we don't have an animation defined from anything to stop. So if we go from toggle, and right now there's no state here that we defined, it just ended at an anything undefined state. So if I click stop, it's just going to immediately jump there because there was no animation defined from anything. We used to have a from anything to stop, which would animate. But since that's no longer there, it just immediately goes there without any animation. So make sure you're fully aware of your states and how they go from one to the other, including the any states and the states that don't even exist.